So the first task in your homework booklet is to write down the functions of your components. You've got their symbols in the first column, their names in the second column, and then the third column you need to write down what all of the different functions are of the components. Final column you need to see whether or not they're an input, a process, or an output. Now when you're looking at input, process, and output in an electronic system, the input is the trigger for the circuit, whatever's going to make it work. It's normally a switch or a sensor. The output is how you know it's doing something, so it's LEDs, motors, buzzers. It's going to make a sound or light or movement. And the process components are everything else in between that make the circuit do the work. Some of the examples of the different input, process, and output components are here. Within your circuit, you've got a single pole, single throw switch, so literally just a straight on-off switch, and that function is to open and close a circuit, so to turn the circuit on and off. You've also got two different types of fixed value resistors. Fixed value resistor 1, 2 and 5 are there to reduce the current to protect components. So all resistors are there to reduce the flow of the current or the flow of electrons, but these particular ones are reducing the flow of electrons so that they protect components within the circuit that are sensitive to a high current. You've got two other ones, R3 and R4. Once again, they're reducing the flow of the current, but this time they're part of the time delay, and you'll do the time calculations later on when you're multiplying resistance by capacitance. So these two components are specifically for generating a time delay in the circuit. This component here, the thyristor, it is what is called a latching component. It is like a switch, and once it's been turned on by having a small current at the gate here, then it will allow the current to flow from the anode to the cathode, but it won't turn off again unless you reset the component. So even if the current disappears or the voltage disappears from the gate, the component will turn on, and that's why it's referred to as a latch. This is a transistor. Like the thyristor, it needs to have a small voltage at the base for the current to flow from the collector to the emitter. Unlike the thyristor, it doesn't latch, so if the voltage goes from the base, then it turns off. So it's still an electronic switch which turns on when there's a voltage at the base. Electrolytic capacitor, that is a storing component. It stores an electronic charge or electric charge, and that is used for part of your time delay. Think of it like filling up a bucket with water. It takes time to fill it, and then you can either leave the water in the bucket or you can empty the water out of the bucket afterwards, and that's you storing your charge. The buzzer component, well, you should all know what a buzzer is. Basically it's a sounding component that makes a noise when there is electric current going through it. And the light emitting diode. A diode is a one-way system in electronics. It only allows the current to flow in one direction, and when the current is flowing, it lights up, so you have a light emitting diode. So they are the component functions. I'll let you work out whether or not they're input, in other words they allow the circuit to work, trigger the circuit. Output, in other words they're generating sound, light, movement because the circuit is working, or whether they're a process component, which is everything in between.